The James Show Podcast.
And yeah, look, the autism debate is something that's been raging here. And I'm glad we got Dr. Chalmers on in the last segment. If you missed it, the doctor was saying that, the straight up assertion by Donald Trump and RFK yesterday that Tylenol causes autism is not necessarily incorrect as much as it is incomplete. And to be fair, I try and refrain from giving medical advice that's above my head that I don't feel strongly about. But I can tell you what I see in the comments section. And there's people in the comment section that say, listen, I used Tylenol a lot when I was pregnant, and I gave it to my kid quite often when they were babies, and they didn't get autism, but I also didn't give them vaccines. And then there's other people who say, well, I had the full complement of vaccines, but I never had Tylenol, and I turned out to be fine. And so there's not a consensus in the comments, but one of the threads that seems to be fairly popular is that it's a combo. And that's kind of what Dr. Matt Chalmers was saying in the last segment. It's a bit of a combination here. You've got to have the vaccines that have some of the toxins in there. You have to have the Tylenol rolling through your system to occupy the chemistry that helps you deal with toxins. And that's a deadly combination. And it's not just vaccines. There's toxins that come from other sources too. So if you get rid of all vaccines, you're still going to have some of this issue. It's not so simple as just Tylenol, but that may be one of the big legs. This is Joyce in North Richland Hills. You're on WBAP. Hey, Joyce.
Hey, buddy. How are you doing? I just wanted to say Robert Kennedy Jr., he and I are exactly the same age, 71 years of age.
Oh, good.
I have 5 siblings. We grew up. The only thing that was in our bathroom medicine cabinet was called Bayer aspirin, and it was used for a toothache, a tummy ache, or whatever. But I totally agree with Trump when he says, you know what? You just kind of need to be tough. I never heard of Tylenol till the late 70s. I never heard about peanut allergies. So I can totally relate with Trump and Robert Kennedy Jr. And I just think, I don't know if we grew up in a stronger generation with stronger genes or whatever, but there shouldn't be a pill for just every little whim and wham that you have that you hurt. It's like, you know what? Be strong. Get over it. Go lie down. Go play with your dog or go do something else and just get the heck over it.
Yeah, well,
anyway.
Yeah, I'm sort of medicine hesitant too, but that's not because I'm some medical scholar. I'm just a stubborn male. And it's like, I don't need no medicine. I'll just rub some dirt on it. And so I just super rarely have ever taken any pills my entire life. I've never been on any prescriptions. In fact, I don't think I'm organized enough to keep up with it. So thank goodness I don't need it. But
yeah.
But think of this.
Me too.
For all of human history, up until like the 1950s, we didn't have a pill for headaches. We didn't have Tylenol. They would take like laudanum, which is an opiate, which is kind of overkill. But yeah, you know what? I don't think my mother-in-law is listening today. So let me go ahead and tell you a little secret about her, Joyce. She is the first person I met that has a pill for everything. Or like every time she gets sick, she goes to the doctor. And I thought that was so crazy because one time I got sick and she's like, you need to go to the doctor. I'm like, for what? She's like, because you're sick. I'm like, yeah, but if I just like stay home for a day, I'll be better tomorrow, and I could just go back to
Exactly. It's overload, and it's like too much. And you know what? We just grew up in a different generation, and it's like you just kind of.
No, listen, she's your age actually. So she's just a bit of a hypochondriac. It's just I guess hypochondria has gone mainstream these days.
Yeah. I don't know, but, I just wish everybody the best. And it's just like, you know what, you just got to rise to the occasion and just don't fall into all these pills.
I know. And it's so annoying to me because I have the opposite, personality quirk in the other direction. So she's always like, anytime my kid gets the sniffles, you need to take him to the doctor. And no, I'm not taking him to the doctor. Look, if you're worried about money, I'll pay for it. No, that's not it. I don't want to drag him to the doctor every time someone sneezes, bro. That's not good for him. Toughen up a little bit. Thank you very much. That's Joyce in North Richland Hills, adding some beautiful context there. Because that's what I wanted to hear. Anyone around her age, you didn't have this with kids your age? You didn't have severe autism? Because I remember a few there, but the charts that are being passed around will blow your mind. Because, look, when I was a kid, when I was in elementary school, the autism rate was 1 out of 1,000. Or, I'm sorry, 10,000 when I was a kid. Wait, where did that go? I just had that chart, and it was blowing my mind. And by the time you got to 2008, it was like 1 in 88. And now it's 1 in 36. And that's the more generous number. So the autism rate has doubled in the last 20 years, but it way more than that from when I was a kid until about 2010 or so. Dang, I don't know. I feel like I missed something. I didn't know it was that bad. 1 out of 36. 1 out of 36. 1 out of 36 people have severe autism or some form of autism. Yeah, that kind of sounds like a national emergency. You know, guns don't affect that many people. Islamic terrorists don't affect that many people. I mean, that's only second to obesity around here for a health concern for America. Real quick, this is Michael in Waco. Hey, Michael, you're on WBAP.
Hey, real quick, I was wanting to say, I think it's interesting, all the stuff on social media and seeing about the Tylenol. Everyone can agree that autism rates are higher now than they used to be for whatever reason and whatever age group. But I do find it interesting that since yesterday or since today, it's like, well, we know there's a problem, but it's definitely not Tylenol.
That's a good point, too. Yeah. We don't know what it is, but we know you're wrong.
Yeah, we know it's not.
That's a very suspicious refrain. Good catch there. That's Michael in Waco. Appreciate it, sir. Now, we talked about this for a little bit yesterday on the James Show. I played you a clip on AOC and Jasmine Crockett, why they voted against the Charlie Kirk resolution from last week. Now, this resolution, it's really short. And the votes, there were, all the Republicans voted for it, except for 4 that just didn't vote. I don't know if they were out of town or Kay Granger in a mental care facility, whatever that. But no one voted nay and no one voted present on the Republican side. 250 yays. On the Democrat side, 95 voted yay. So listen, I really want to focus on this. About half of the Democrat Party. This is the sane half of the Democrat Party. This is the part that's not celebrating death. This is the part that hasn't lost their humanity. This is the part that says, listen, all that Nazi, fascist, Hitler, that's just hyperbole. They're not really as bad as Hitler. They're not really as bad as fascists as Nazis. Maybe I won't be so outspoken and shouting that down, but when it's time to put pen to paper, they can at least remain human. Out of the Democrats, 58 voted nay, 38 voted present. Now, let me read to you the entire House resolution. HRES 719 of the 119th Congress. This resolution, 1, condemns the assassination of Charlie, in quotes, James Kirk, and all forms of political violence, semicolon, and 2, honors the life, leadership, and legacy of Charlie Kirk. That's the whole thing. That is the entire resolution. It doesn't say this resolution means I agree with all of his political positions. It doesn't mean I support or endorse any of his political positions. It just means I condemn his assassination, all forms of political violence, and honor the life, leadership, and legacy of Charlie Kirk. Honoring doesn't mean you agree with it. I honor the life, legacy, and leadership of Jimmy Carter. I think he was one of the worst presidents of my lifetime, but man, Obama and Biden really gave him a run for it, didn't they? But that's the whole resolution. Does that sound like hate speech? Does that sound like a bridge too far? Does that sound like something that you couldn't co-sign on? So let's go see. Why couldn't she vote for it? In her own words, Jasmine Crockett explaining why she voted against the Kirk resolution.
For 58 Democrats who voted against it. You were one.
Oh, wait, that's Dana Bash asking the question on CNN.
There were 58 Democrats who voted against it. You were one.
Yeah.
Why?
Absolutely. You know what? One of the things I do want to point out that's not been laid out that honestly hurts my heart is when I saw the no votes, there were only 2 Caucasians.
Why did race have to get put in this at all? Hang on a second. I mean, I'll let her finish the explanation, but What's the point of that? Why are you bringing race? That only 2 of them were Caucasians? How come that doesn't get flipped around? How come that doesn't concern you? That of everyone that voted for it, all but 2 were people of color. Well, what's the problem? Because the people voting against this are people who are not condemning political assassinations. They're not honoring the life, legacy, whatever of Charlie Kirk. They're not condemning the assassination. That's it. What's wrong with them? Not what's wrong with the bipartisan majority that supported this, regardless of race. What's wrong with the people that voted against this? And how come you only see the color as bad going one way? Because I see a collectivist approach to voting against this. I think that's more of a concern. Not concern for the people who condemn political assassination. How do we have 56 minorities out of 58 who can't do that? That's a concern. All right, I'll let her continue.
For the most part, the only people that voted no were people of color, because the rhetoric that Charlie Kirk continuously put out there was rhetoric that specifically targeted people of color. And
no, see, this is totally backwards. They voted against it because Charlie Kirk's racist? No. They voted against it because they are racist, because they are identifying and defining characteristics about people based solely on the color of their skin. They are the people that see racism and everything from a Sydney Sweeney ad to a garage pull down on Bubba Wallace's NASCAR garage. You people see racism everywhere except for your own heart when it happens.
So it is unfortunate that even our colleagues could not see how harmful his rhetoric was specifically to us. And
how has his rhetoric been harmful? See, this is the dirty trick they play. Because it used to be sticks and stones can break my bones, but words will never hurt me. He's made no actionable threats. What harm has befallen anyone from Charlie Kirk's words? The answer is none. But they have to pretend like it to justify their recalcitrance in honoring the fact that he was just a regular human being with mainstream views.
I can tell you that a month prior to him passing away, he had actually gotten out on his podcast. I wasn't aware of this at the time, but he got out there and he was talking negatively about me directly. So if there was any way that I was going to honor somebody who decided that they were just going to negatively talk about me and proclaim that I was somehow involved in the great white replacement, yeah, I'm not honoring that kind of stuff, especially as a civil rights attorney.
Oh, stop it. See, this is the difference there. You can shoot Erica Kirk's husband and she can still forgive you and treat you as a fellow human. But Charlie Kirk, what? For what was her excuse? He criticized me, said something negative about him, so screw him. He doesn't deserve his full complement of human rights. He loses his humanity when he's your political opponent. This is the point of the resolution. I can go and tell you, and I'm not just saying this because it's the easy thing to do, and I'm trying to dunk on someone because I'm on the radio in front of 100,000 people. But I can guarantee you, if Jasmine Crockett got assassinated, God forbid, and I don't want that to happen, and someone put a resolution like this in front of me, I could vote for that in a second. I can easily, if it happened to her, I would condemn the assassination of Jasmine Crockett and all forms of political violence. I would honor the life, leadership, and legacy of Jasmine Crockett, even though I disagree with it politically. I don't think she's subhuman. I don't think she's literally a Nazi. I don't think she's, he's hurting our community. No, he's not. And you can't just say that because he's doing words, because he has a microphone in front of a PA system in some university's quad. He wasn't hurting anybody, and that's the point. 800-288-9227. This is Ross in Dallas. You're on WBAP.
Yes, sir. I just was going to bring up the point that everything Charlie Kirk did was pretty much videoed, almost 100%. And I'd like to see the video where he was talking about that nutcase, saying what he said. And that's pretty much about all I wanted to say about it.
Talking about what nutcase? Where he mentioned Jasmine Crockett?
Jasmine Crockett, okay, saying that he was talking about her. You know what I'm saying?
Well, look, I do know what you're saying, because he probably says similar things to what you and I say about her. And the crazy part about that is, if that's what she thinks about Charlie Kirk, that's what she thinks about Ross in Dallas. That's what she thinks about James Parker on the James Show. She wouldn't care if you were shot, if you were assassinated, Ross. Is that what you take away from this?
Yeah. And how in the hell would somebody that kind of sense ever pass the bar? Anyway.
She's not dumb. She's playing the game. I'm not even sure if she believes this stuff. So I don't, and that's the big if. That's the big variable. I don't know if she's playing the part, because we've heard her do the code switching with the accents. So we know she knows how to conjugate her verbs. We know she knows how to speak, in something that's less street and more educated. Not trying to get myself in trouble here, but y'all all know what I'm talking about. So I don't think she's dumb. I think she's playing dumb because that works for the voters. And the real villain here isn't even Jasmine Crockett. It's the fact that enough people in the district I'm sitting in right now are dumb enough to fall for this.
I got you, sir.
All right. Well,
you have a good day. That's
I'm glad that.
all I got for
Good. Glad that clears that up. That's Ross in Dallas. Thank you very much, sir. You know what? I will. I'll get those comments. I'll find them. I'll get you what Charlie Kirk said about Jasmine Crockett that made her say this, because maybe that sheds light on why she would vote against it. Another big story today is Donald Trump was in front of the UN. Now, before I get to the audio, a couple funny things happened on the way to the UN. He had a camera on him the whole time, and I don't know where he was coming from, because Trump Tower, where he lives on the east side of Manhattan, it's next door to the UN. Did you know that? Like the Trump Tower, it's across the street from the UN. The UN's right there on the East River. There's the one road behind it. Boom, there's Trump Tower just towering over it. The UN's a pretty big building. And then right next to it, the Trump Tower is like 30 stories taller than it, so it dwarfs it. But there was the cameras that followed his motorcade to the UN, and then they were following him walking into the big chamber where the UN assembly meets. And when he stepped on the escalator, he had Melania with him. They both stepped on the escalator at the same time, right as they stepped on it, and it was totally cleared. Boom. It stopped working. And like the old Mitch Hedberg joke says, an escalator never really breaks down. It just turns into stairs. And so then they walked up the dead escalator. Okay, that's interesting. And then when it's his turn to speak and he gets to the podium, the teleprompter stopped working. So you're going to get a good chuckle out of these clips here. Hear how Donald Trump responds to the broken teleprompter. He throws in an impromptu joke, gets a lot of laughs from the world's worst dictators who are all assembled in the UN General Assembly. And then he makes a couple of good points, and I'll play them too. Coming up next on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. And he made a little fun with it and got a nice chuckle.
Thank you very much. Very much appreciate it. And I don't mind making the speech without a teleprompter, because the teleprompter is not working. I feel very happy to be up here with you nevertheless, and that way you speak more from the heart. I can only say that whoever's operating this teleprompter is in big trouble.
See, I've always considered the UN to be sort of like a den of thieves. People say the UN is where all the countries come together and they can bring peace and settle conflicts with words and not armies and bullets and bombs. What it really is you're just taking a straw poll of the world's worst strongmen dictators. About 2/3 of the countries that have a vote in the UN are not representative democracies. They're dictatorships or kings. There's still some kingdoms out there. The kingdom of Saudi Arabia, the king of Qatar, the king of Bahrain, the king of Brunei. There's not real elections that happen in Iran or Afghanistan or so many of these other countries. And you don't think a whole lot about these countries, but when you add them all up, the Congo, the Rwandas, Egypt, all the people that don't have democratically elected leaders, they far outnumber the developed worlds, where our leaders are chosen by the people. Like we have legitimate rulers, not tyrants, not dictators. And so what you're really getting when the UN votes on something is, what do the most terrible tyrants on earth think about a situation? So it just baffles me when I turn on like an ABC News or NBC, CBS. I'm not shocked by CNN or NBC. But, they shouldn't do this either. And they talk about the UN like it's some austere body, some august body. And so once you realize that this is just the worst miscreants on earth voting on issues, not only do you not care what they think, oh, the UN voted to condemn the U.S.'s bombing of Iran like earlier this summer. So what? That means it's probably the right thing to do. If the UN's against it, that's not really convincing me that it was the wrong thing. In fact, if you are one of these strongmen dictators, one thing that is a check on your power is the fact that the United States is so powerful and far-reaching that we can bomb anybody we want at any time. If anybody invades their neighbors and we don't like it, we can put a stop to it. Whether it was Iran and Iraq trying to fight, whether it was Iraq going into Kuwait, whether it was Russia trying to go into Ukraine, we are the biggest threat to their power. And so they have a built-in incentive, actually, the UN, the majority of the UN, to behave and vote in a manner that is antithetical, that hurts the United States, that diminishes us, that weakens us. And so it makes perfect sense why they are all about global warming. In fact, they're the main drivers of it. What do they talk about? The IPCC, the International Panel on Climate Change? Who do they give their report to? Yeah, that's the United Nations report. That's the United Nations Council. And so when they tell you, oh, well, we're just going to have to save the planet, we're going to have to take $1 trillion worth of wealth from developed countries and give them to third world countries and developing countries. Yeah, or we're all going to die. That's the ticket. It's not believable. So Trump continued, and he talked about when he was working on saving some of these wars, stopping some of these wars. He gives himself credit for 7 peace agreements thus far. He says the UN was absolutely no help in those.
I ended 7 wars, dealt with the leaders of each and every one of these countries, and never even received a phone call from the United Nations offering to help in finalizing the deal. All I got from the United Nations was an escalator that on the way up stopped right in the middle. If the First Lady wasn't in great shape, she would have fallen. But she's in great shape. We're both in good shape. We both stood. And then a teleprompter that didn't work. These are the 2 things I got from the United Nations, a bad escalator and a bad teleprompter.
Well, that's actually kind of on par for the UN. They are just, if you look at their history, it's just one big embarrassing failure after another. But here's the part, I'm going to play you a clip that no one else is going to play. This is one of the reasons you love the James shows, because I actually dig through the audio and find something you're not going to hear on the other shows. I really like this one part where he focused in on the global warming aspect, because, like I said, the UN is one of the main drivers of this, and this has just got to stop, because this is a very expensive hoax.
The fake energy catastrophe, before it's too late, the carbon footprint is a hoax made up by people with evil intentions, and they're heading down a path of total destruction. You know, the carbon footprint was a big, big thing a few years ago. I remember hearing about the carbon footprint, and then President Obama would get into Air Force One, a massive Boeing 747, and not a new one, an old one with old engines that spew everything into the atmosphere. He'd talk about the carbon footprint, we must do so. Then he'd get in and he'd fly from Washington to Hawaii to play a round of golf. And then he'd get back onto that big, beautiful plane and he'd fly back and he'd talk about, again, global warming and the carbon footprint. It's a con job.
And don't say that's an oversimplification. I know you're probably sympathetic to that argument. But how do these people explain themselves when someone takes a private plane to get in a fleet of SUVs to go to a symposium to tell you that creating carbon dioxide is destroying the earth? And then he leaves, gets back in a fleet of SUVs to get on a private plane to go back to his house. It's not that he's a hypocrite, it's that he's lying. That's one thing you learned during COVID. They're not hypocrites when they tell you that this disease is so dangerous that it's too dangerous for you to go to your favorite restaurant. And then Gavin Newsom goes to the French Laundry, his favorite restaurant, with a bunch of his oligarchs, the pigs from Animal Farm. It's not that he's a hypocrite. That's not the lesson. It's that he's lying. It's not really that dangerous. And so whether it's the people that go to the next IPCC, Climate Change Summit, Obama, Al Gore does this constantly. John Kerry does this. If someone takes a private plane to tell you carbon dioxide is destroying the earth, they're not hypocrites. They're lying to you. They know it doesn't, or they wouldn't do what they're doing. So if we can just get rid of that myth, that would be a whole lot of problems solved. Because all it is just an excuse for what the socialists wanted to do anyway. Redistribute wealth. I mean, that's what they're all about. They want to take money from people that are against them and give it to people that are for them. It's the most classic political grift there is. It's just dressed up as the weather.
The James Show Podcast.